Good afternoon and hello again. Please allow me to welcome my esteemed panelists, His Excellency Khalid Al Rumaihi, Chairman of ALBA, Mr. Mohammad Abunayyan, Founder and Chairman of ACWA Power, and Steven Armstrong, the Chair of the Board at Morgan Motor Company. We'll be talking about how the region is creating a new model for sustainable manufacturing that serves both economic diversification and the global supply chain. I will start with you, Your Excellency. What is needed to unlock more growth? I'm going to ask this question to everyone. What is needed in the region to unlock more growth?
First of all, good afternoon. It's a delight to be here at Gateway Gulf. Tough first question.
We need to get it all under one umbrella.
So, I'll talk at least from the perspective of ALBA as an industrial manufacturer. I think a rail network, looking at infrastructure.
A rail network in the region?
In the region. I think that, of course, we see the beginnings of that. But for having a fuller rail network that would allow goods to transport at much lower cost, allow agility and flexibility for goods to go either to the western province of Saudi Arabia or to the UAE or to Oman and so forth, is going to be critical to lowering transport costs and allowing manufacturers, both from a supply perspective and an export perspective, to be much more agile and much more cost efficient. The second element I would say is that as a GCC union, the ability to have a unified customs window. Mm-hmm. There is still friction in transport of goods between the GCC. For us to be able to have a single customs window that would allow these goods to travel across the GCC, both import and export, is going to be a game changer.
How long do you think we need to get there? Is it in process?
It's been in process for years, so
okay.
I will only say that it's.
So we have to ask the dark questions.
The third, if I'll end there, is a increase in deep water berths. Again, for a manufacturer, the allowance of logistics and shipping is something that will allow us to receive deep water berths. And this is maybe unique to Bahrain. But this is going to be important, again, to fill out the infrastructure and allow manufacturers to have a better network of supply and demand.
I'll ask Mohammad the same question. What would it take to unlock more growth in the region from your perspective?
We have an Arabic say, and I am, at this age, I do not want to do things not politically right. I will say, "Shu khabkhas," our own Arabic way. But if you allow me, I think what I could see in the GCC is something very unique. We need to think as a GCC really how to be able to complement each other. Mm-hmm. And where is our strength and where is our resources, and how we put our thinking is not in competing. I think what we need to do in how to complement each other. If we look at it, the Kingdom of Bahrain example where we are here, I think it's a great window. It's a great platform that it could be utilized and used in a better form, it's a better way for the rest of the GCC countries. Many other countries is the same. But I think what we really need, we need to put more effort, to start with as business. Let's not talk about government.
Okay.
I think we need to work together and we need to create, partnership. And we need to create complementary between all these businesses that we could take these companies from local to regional to international. And this is where we could create really the growth, because what we could do and what we have to do here, there is a lot to do in many other countries. In Africa, example, in other regions, in Asia, in other regions. Where we are fragmented, where we are businesses here is really not complementing each other, not building really a strong consortium and really partnership that we could go and be champions in different regions in the world. And this is going to impact us huge. It's going to make our economy better. It's going to make us the scale, the competitiveness, and really penetrating many other countries in the world.
Stephen, I'll move on to you, and we're asking a question: what would it take to unlock growth? And before we got in, we were talking about how there are some certain similarities between the Morgan Motor Company and Bahrain, being a small country, being a small company, catering to a niche audience. How do you see the similarities, and how do you see unlocking growth?
Yeah, thank you. So first, thanks for the invitation to be here. It's great to spend time with everybody in the room. As you say, Morgan is a very small company, so we produce around about 750, 800 cars a year, majority of which are exported, and some come to this region, of course. And one of the things that would make life easier for us would be more alignment between regulations across the region. So building on His Excellency's comment around customs, it would allow us to bring vehicles in and not have to homologate and certify vehicles individually in the different countries, which would then open up more opportunity for us to have potentially a base here for vehicles coming in to then be exported through the region. So we would see Bahrain as a potentially a great place to have a footprint to allow that to happen if we had the opportunity to move goods more freely across. Because Morgan is a business that relies on building relationships. It's a company that loves to know its customers and understand who it's dealing with, and that's the same sense as we get from being here in Bahrain, but also within the GCC. So there's a good match between those two philosophies, I think.
Your Excellency, we're talking about beyond carbon and manufacturing the next frontier. What gives Bahrain a competitive advantage today, especially when we talk about Alba? It's one of the biggest aluminum companies in the region. What gives Bahrain a competitive advantage moving into the future?
I think Bahrain, by virtue of being small, has an agility in the way that it can operate. And so if you ask investors and companies that are based in the Kingdom of Bahrain, there's a proximity to decision makers and ability to move fast. Of course, we see that now in our neighbors as well. MashaAllah, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is moving very rapidly, modernizing. Bahrain has had, again, by virtue of being small, has that ability. And the ability to reach decision makers very quickly is certainly a competitive advantage. I think also there's a history and a legacy in Bahrain, whether it is in manufacturing. Alba started in 1971. It's a 54-year-old company in aluminium, the first aluminium smelter. That gives it an ability to be large. It is at 1.6 million tons, has grown to be the largest single-site smelter in the world, has an ability to reach markets and have a brand name, and has expertise. And we're very proud of the fact that 87% of our labor force is composed of Bahrainis. That is at every level, not just management, but at the line. And again, I would say the capital, the human capital, the talent that we have in the Kingdom of Bahrain is a very distinct competitive advantage. In banking, you'll see high proportion of Bahrainis who we're proud that don't only work in Bahrain, but work across the GCC and outside. In manufacturing, we see also Bahrainis helping other manufacturers because we've earned that expertise. So I think the agility, the human capital, and the expertise and legacy that we've earned in certain sectors that we've operated in for 50 plus years.
Hold on to the thought of the talent, Your Excellency. We'll get back to it in a bit, but let's talk, Mohammed, about the technologies that will shape the future of the region and the energy that powers this region. What is changing there, looking into the future?
Everybody is talking about the AI and all of the digital, everything else, where it's going to be extremely important. It's going to help, I think, a lot to bring this efficiency, competitiveness, everything else. But innovation and development in the green energy, nobody in the past has imagined that we will be where it is today. I think who could believe that the renewable is today the cost of energy, even it's a green, it's friendly to the environment, it is more competitive than the conventional energy, or equal at least. you know, this is a choice that the future, that especially with the development of the storage and the renewable, where we are going to see this green energy is a base load. And the technology and the innovation in the storage will change the mapping of the future of the energy, because reality today that the renewable was the only challenges that we could see how to use this energy or electricity as a base load. And with the really the disruption happening in the technology, in the storage, and the cost innovation and the development of the technology, if you see the battery storage cost went down is so tremendous. You know, in the last 5 years, we are talking about 60%. You know, what's coming now is very recently, in the coming 2-3 years, you are going to see much further development where the material will be used in the battery will be different material. The lithium, the rare material will be not anymore needed. But again, I think the hydrogen is going to play a huge role in the future. Alba, with due respect, you know, or steel, or many others, or some transport, or even in the you know, shipping companies, you are going to use future is the hydrogen. And the hydrogen, and the green hydrogen in particular, if you see the innovation, and we are building now one plant in New, it is going to be the biggest plant on earth, 1.2 million ton of green ammonia. You know, what we are building in New, compared to any green energy today exist, is 60% lower in cost. You know, in the
60% lower
than any manufacturing, any company in the world doing green hydrogen. Or blue hydrogen, or even now we are not going to be very far away from gray hydrogen. Reality that the electrolyzers example, technology, you know, and the development of the electrolyzers technology is going so fast, so rapid, that it's going to make the green hydrogen the future of energy. Yes, we are not going to compete with the GCC and the conventional energy, you know, the oil and gas.
Will you provide Alba with power?
No, we will provide them to decarbonize. You cannot decarbonize steel or aluminium or others by only green electricity. You need the hydrogen, because the hydrogen will decarbonize and will make this decarbonization in the furnaces and other things where they are using the gas. And instead of the gas, you know, one day will come, is it blue hydrogen, is it green hydrogen, all of the above. But in reality, that the whole industry will do and will make this green, you know, decarbonization is needed. And that's the reason I think the future, we are going to see more and more innovation, more development in the electricity green, but also in the decarbonization in the form of the green hydrogen.
Please.
I was just going to say, of course, Burakan is knowledgeable about this. We would love to work with ACWA, but solar requires land size. And I think what Burakan is saying is that if we can look at other, for Bahrain, it's a limitation of land size that makes relying only on solar to be challenging for Alba. But I think I agree. Green hydrogen could be an element that we would look at for green electricity.
So, Steven, you've led major automotive transformations across Europe, China, and the Middle East. And before Morgan, you worked for a huge automotive company. What are the skill sets that are needed to move into the future? And when we actually do think of beyond carbon, I mean, the automotive industry is heavily based on carbon. How do we look at that?
Well, I think the skill sets piece is interesting, because it doesn't matter how big the businesses you're running, building strong relationships with the partners that you work with, be they governments, be they other companies, be they your distribution network, your suppliers, relationship management is critical. And in the current geopolitical situation, managing those relationships is even more important than perhaps it was in the past, because you've got to be able to build partnerships and relationships that can withstand these kind of global shocks. So I was lucky enough to run lots of joint ventures and daughter companies for Ford Motor Company over the last kind of 40 years. And the thing that got me through that was the ability to work with people in situations where perhaps they didn't necessarily want to work with you. So you've got to kind of bring them along with you all the while. And you can't rely just on size and scale to get you there. You've got to forge a partnership that's going to last. And obviously in little tiny Morgan, that's even more important, because the business is so small. People deal with us because they like dealing with us, not just because they plan to make lots of money with us. And I think those kind of skills as you move forward are going to be really important, because we're in an incredible transition stage. I mean, the industry has spent the last 10, 12 years, primarily the last 5 to 7 years, really switching into electrification and putting a lot of investment in that space. As we're just hearing, there will be another transition to come after that, and you've got to figure out how to manage all of those relationships that you're going to have to build, and at some point perhaps unwind again as you move to another relationship as a new technology moves forward. So, it's not going to be like it was in the past, where the internal combustion engine started in 1896, and it survived all the way till now. In another century, we won't be using the same propulsion system as we're using today. So that ability to manage transitions is critical.
When we talk about the ability to manage transitions, Your Excellency, do you want to talk about decarbonizing ALBA in the future, or talent? What do you prefer to? We're going to get to talent. Let's talk about decarbonizing. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a major issue that we think about.
It will take a long time. I mean, let's get it straight that when we talk about decarbonizing, we're not talking about next year or the year after or the next 10 years. Carbon is here to stay for at least 50 more years, right?
Yes. But to introduce clean energy in the next, I would say, 5 years.
Yes,
I would not even take it beyond 5 years, where it's a major component of your energy mix. This is not just about an ESG initiative. It is not a cost center. It is demanded. It's an imperative. Our clients are asking us to provide them with green aluminium. And when you provide them with green aluminium, and we've introduced it, we call it Eternal. We've introduced it, we get a premium. We actually see a price increase on that aluminium. So to us, it's an imperative. So then the question is, how do you do this? Well, I think we first have to map out what are the options available to us. As I mentioned, solar is a challenge, although we think it is definitely going to be a component of our energy mix because of the land size. You would need large tracts of land to have solar. We are exploring whether we could collaborate in Saudi Arabia, in the Kingdom of Saudi
Transferring
Arabia,
solar.
and transfer it to Bahrain because of the kingdom's size and ability to have a gig or 2 gigawatts. For ALBA, we're talking about 2,600 megawatts of power that we would need. This is what we consume at the moment. We produce it locally. So it's a very large ask. We're exploring whether nuclear could make sense.
Okay. It's clean energy.
Whether it is SMRs, small modular reactors, which we feel is still too early. That's going to take you 10 years, I think, for where it's viable and where it's cost effective. But nuclear, of course, at a sovereign level and a national level, could be a very clean solution in which we would participate. I think those are the 2 areas where we see there's viability. Wind, I don't believe is going to be as viable. And of course, hydrogen is an area of interest as well. But we look at potentially nuclear and in the short term, solar as energy transition.
So Mohammed, I'm sure you have something to say about this.
Wallah, if you allow me, I have 2 things.
Please.
First, I am against nuclear 100%.
Oh, wow.
Since my starting until today and the future.
Why?
Because people in the United States and Europe now talking about nuclear. It's okay for them to talk about it, let them talk about it, because they are politicians and they know that after 4 years they will not be there. Reality, it is in our region, you do not need nuclear. First, safety is a huge issue. and this is going to be the biggest mistake we will do. Second, the cost. The cost is 15 cents plus per kilowatt hour. To build the nuclear, you need, if you are lucky, 10 years to 12 years. Let's say 10 years. But you could imagine what that means. If I have another alternative that I could do 7 cents, very safe, very clean, very green, why I go to this alternative? You know, and this is for me, it does not make any sense. Number one. Number two, I would like to go back to what you said in your first question. And I see an opportunity we are not yet capitalizing on in the GCC.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a politician, but I don't like to be a politician because I know nothing about it. What is happening in the whole world now is a great golden era for the Gulf country. Why?
Why?
Because we could host huge Chinese manufacturing in this region. Never ever we could dream of to supply the whole world from Gulf, to change the labeling of made in China,
Yes.
and to sell hundreds of billions to the whole world. Because in reality, we have the energy, we have the land, we have the infrastructure, we have the great regulation, we have great leadership, we have everything. And if the GCC country today
Okay.
really do a proper focus and thinking what kind of industry that we need to host from China, and use the GCC in Bahrain example, you know, XYZ, because the free trade agreement with the United States example, they have a great added value here, they have a great excess. Use the Chinese, get the Chinese manufacture, do this local, make that accessible market, and this is where you create growth and you create jobs, you create everything. I will go to the human capital. Our experience in ACWA Power, I have to say, I hope that the audience will visit our academy. What we have done in Saudi Arabia, we have graduated up to now almost 18,000 from this academy.
From
Okay?
ACWA Power Academy.
Yes, 96% boys and girls, they are employees.
Okay.
We have great young youth in this region.
This is
Take
one of the biggest.
Bahrain. This
yeah,
is the
yeah.
best resources.
One of the biggest
You know, Sheikh Salman talked about it this morning. You know, we have the best resources. We have a great young youth. They are smart, they are capable, they are eager. How to be able to reskill them? Not, I'm sorry to say, maybe the people get well upset from me because I did not have been educated. I am not a university education, I'm a high school, okay? I disagree with the education system that everybody going to go to university.
Why?
You know, because what we need in these countries, in the GCC, not all, you know, university graduates. We need people to be technical. We need people to be
But with
vocational
automation
training.
today
We need
and
to
AI
develop the vocational training, because the vocational training in our GCC, unfortunately, there is no focus. And this is where you have the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of jobs. It's not these degrees where people think of the university degrees, but we are not getting the mass jobs. And the mass jobs will be in the future, is going to be in the vocational training, where we are missing in all our GCC country.
That will take us to ask about talent. We have to cover talent now, since he did mention talent. What do you think when it comes to the automotive industry? Where does talent fall, and how do we take it with us into the future? And what are the lessons learned that we can learn from the automotive industry?
Well, of course, most car companies, Morgan's a little bit different, but most car companies are, you know, heavily automated in their body shops and their paint shops, and to some degree now in the assembly areas. But it still relies on people to run the facilities. We still have a lot of jobs that you can't automate because you need the dexterity and the capability that people have. We have a lot of apprentices still in the auto industry. I actually started as an apprentice, having left school at 16, and worked my way through through the business. And I agree with the comments that you need to provide jobs for people at
So you agree with the
varying levels.
vocational
I agree with
as well as,
vocational. I mean, one of my other roles is I'm chairman of a university, so I have some opinions about graduates as well. But I think you need the depth of jobs, because not everybody can or should be a graduate.
Okay.
Not every job requires a graduate level of training. You need people that are great with your hands. And we were talking a little bit earlier on about the fact that even at Morgan, where most of the vehicle is handmade, even with the panels being hand beaten, we bring in 5 or 6 apprentices a year who wants to learn to do things with their hands. And we can't leave those people behind as everything becomes digital and automated. You have to provide training and work for all of the population. Otherwise, you end up with a 2-tier system, and that doesn't work in the long run. So I would agree with that.
Your Excellency, when it comes to Bahrain in the region, in GCC, Bahrainis are known to do all the jobs. They are part of every community and all the communities. Right. Where does talent management and talent training, exactly like Mr. Mohammed did mention, that one of the biggest resources is the youth of the region. So how do we look at that talent?
Well, I think Bahrain has been successful in leveraging that talent. But then what do we do about the future? How can we accelerate that?
Yes.
There is still a large proportion of our population in Bahrain, and I think everywhere in the GCC, of young, ambitious talent that is looking for jobs. How do we satisfy that? And I think what Bahrain has done well, even going back to the 70s, is vocational talent.
Okay.
If you look at Babco, our oil industry, my father worked for Babco. They had an amazing way of taking, whether you were a university graduate or a high school graduate, teaching you the basic skills and developing you. This was our university. And I think there are national champions, Alba considers itself one of them, where you have a role to play in terms of not only marrying that vocational education. The vocational education needs to be married with apprenticeship. And companies, champions, have to play that role of the apprenticeship, even if they don't hire those individuals. Bahrain has done that. Alba does that now. Babco did it for many, many years. By the way, and this doesn't apply only to industry. It can apply to banking. One of the areas that Bahrain excelled when it was an offshore banking hub is that we had banks here. I was a banker for many years. I trained under Chase Manhattan. I learned more than that than I learned in a university. So I think what you have to have is the industry play an active role of apprenticeship. The vocational schools have a role to play by taking somebody and not giving them a degree. I agree. You should focus on vocational. But then you need to marry that by companies who spend the time and effort to train those individuals, give them practical experience, and whether they hire them or not, they're going to be much more valuable in the job market.
Steven.
And I'd just like to add to that, because I think that's all absolutely correct. But you know, we often talk about training as being kind of schools and universities. I mean, I'm in my 60s and been in the job for 40 years, and I learn something every day, right? So that training never finishes. Sure. And if this region, or any region for that matter, is going to continue to thrive and prosper, it needs to train people continually. You know, lifetime learning is the thing we talk about a lot where I am, and getting credits for those things that you're learning in the workplace, and getting certified for those things outside of the normal school system, because that's what differentiates a business that's stood still with one that's going to progress. You have to train your people to use AI, to understand robotics, to figure out the difference between managing a different power source, whatever. I mean, you don't have to go to school to do that. You have to learn that as you go and get credited for it, and that's really important.
So to wrap up our session, I will ask each one of you also the same question. And from your perspective, in one word or one small sentence, what from your industry is the next frontier going into the future? What would it be, Your Excellency?
I believe that we have to create growth beyond our boundaries.
Okay.
I really think that companies need to think, we focused on our domestic industry, how can we grow beyond that? So at least I speak about my industry and a national champion. How do I go to Europe or the United States and begin to project our expertise? We sometimes think the expertise is always there. We forget that we have expertise that we can export as well. So I think that's certainly
exporting our expertise. Mr. Mohammed.
Wallahi, and I will go to, we have not to put to ourselves limits. Sometimes we have, we are putting to ourselves certain constraints.
Yep.
And we need to think beyond the box, or out of the box. We need to think beyond. I will tell you our experience example in desalination. We never ever think that we could reduce the desalination 85% the cost
Oh, wow.
of 1 cubic meter since we started in 2004. And I was very happy when I met the Vice President of China last Friday, and he said, we want your know-how to come to China in the desalination.
Nice.
You know, it's not really, we not want to pretend always that somebody else in Europe or in the States or Japan or Korea or China could do something that we cannot do. Let's not put to ourselves constraint and we think we cannot do much. Let's always be a little bit optimistic, not being arrogant, but
Yeah.
also we need to work hard, but we not want to just put to ourselves limitation. You know, Alba today is exporting to United States. Anybody could believe that here sitting in Bahrain and, you know, exporting to United States. Alba is bigger than any mill in the state.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
this is, we need to be always recognized, you know.
Stephen, we're going to wrap up with you.
Oh,
If you
thank
can
you.
comment very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. So for this region, I would say you have the advantage of, whilst you do have some businesses that are around for 50 years, you have a lot of new investments. And as those new investments come, you have the ability to plan for them to be agile, to change, and to adopt new technologies as technologies come forward, which is much easier than converting an old legacy business. So use that opportunity wisely to adopt those technologies as they come forward and be flexible as the technology flexes.
Thank you,
Right.
Stephen, Mohammed, and Your
Thank you.
Excellency. It was a
Shukran.
pleasure having you all, and thank you, dear audience, for staying with us.
Thank you very much. It's great. Thank you.
Shukran.
Thank you. Allah يعافيك.